Oh, look, the Birdman responded. And it's absolute garbage. Hello, everybody. My name is the Defunct Archive. Instead of taking any type of accountability that he did a little bit of a boo-boo, not a little bit, it's actually one of the worst things, he decided to just double down on everything and repeat his Twitter arguments that don't actually make any sense, and apparently he can't read either. So let's go through that.
Your old Uncle Birdman had a wild weekend as a couple things happened and the worst people imaginable are attempting to capitalize on them.
We're off to a great start. Woo, go and try to call people the worst people because you doxed somebody.
To prove this, I Google Yellow Flash 2 Real Face. Google Images pops this up. The first four results are all Reddit results, the first and fourth of which are showing a man's face. I click the first and fourth link and they take me to the same Reddit thread that is over a year old. This thread lists Yellow Flash's apparent name, his general location, and these images of a portly man. I read.
So you remember when I gave the argument of let me give you the best thing of that, he just shared the Reddit thread he didn't know. No, he double checked and verified that information and actually went to this Reddit thread now. So then he knew that he was sharing somebody's real name and their general location, which is a dox. And keep in mind that general location has a very low population, so it would be very easy to find somebody with their full name. But he's going to explain why it's not doxing in a second.
The thread and find zero pushback on the fact that this may not be him. I then perform a Google search on the name that is listed in that thread, and Google's AI confirms the name as Yellow Flash's name, along with a link to one of Yellow Flash's videos that I did not click. It's at this point I decide that this is Yellow Flash's face and real name, so I screenshot the image and post a response on Twitter, pointing out that Flash is also a shit and basically shouldn't be throwing stones in glass houses. Now, you might have noticed I'm not saying or showing the name in this video so far. This is because it turns out this image was not of Yellow Flash, which immediately causes him to quote tweet and proclaim that I did exactly what Angry Joe apparently did, and posted the same image of a person who was not Yellow Flash, but an apparent regular guy who Flash met and who was suffering from cancer. In response, I screenshot the Reddit thread to show my source. This screenshot had a name and a general area. This caused Flash's fans and people literally follow my Twitter account around just to hate, to say that I doxed a man suffering from cancer.
So you just admitted once again that with full knowledge, with just misunderstanding who it was, you posted somebody's private information, their full name, and their general location, and their face. That's not a normal thing. That is doxing. But he's gonna go bring up a definition and only read half of it.
Now, let's pause and talk about doxing. According to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, or FIRE, doxing is the intentional release of an individual's personal identifying information without the person's permission, usually with intent to retaliate or intimidate. Notice that it says intentional and intent.
That doesn't help you. That just hurts you more because you did the exact same thing that it is speaking about. Let's actually go over to the website. So if we go over to the website, and yes, it is a real website, you'll see doxing, sometimes spelling. Doxing generally refers to the intentional release of an individual's personal identifying information without the person's permission. Then there's a comma, and usually, meaning it does not have to be that way, but usually with the intent to retaliate or intimidate. Meaning that this is what you did. You intentionally released a piece of information trying to draw attention to it that you had no right to do. That would be doxing under this definition. So trying to say or trying to bring this up, even in the conversation, just makes you look like you're not able to read.
I am from California, and thus I am subject to California's laws. Here is what California's laws say about doxing, which is specifically covered under California Penal Code 653.2. Every person who, with intent to place another person in reasonable fear for his or her safety, yada, 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 causing that other person unwanted physical contact, injury, or harassment by a third party, yada, 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 can be subject to all these forms of punishment.
He's doing the thing in which he hopes that you don't actually go and verify any of his claims or corrections, but if you actually go over to that law, it doesn't say what he's trying to say, where it's just intent. So he already confirmed that he willingly shared information about another person, and that is starting to become suspicious. So we would need to see whether the courts can deem whether or not he was doing it was malicious and was trying to incite harassment, which is why you don't bring up a legal argument. But underneath there, it's saying that it's up to a reasonable person. Most reasonable people would see that you shared the full name of somebody and their general location and then try to act like that was okay, and still are trying to say, well, because it's not legal, that it's not, illegal, therefore what I did was okay. Most people would find that disturbing, and when we look at the law, we can see that exact thing be played out. So let's read that with the full context. So every person, including him, with the intent to place another person in reasonable fear for his or her safety, or the safety of the other person's immediate family by means of an electronic communication device and without consent of the other person, and for the purpose of immediately causing the other person unwanted physical contact, injury, or harassment by a third party, electronically distributes, publishes, emails, hyperlinks, or makes available for downloading personal identifiable information, including but not limited to a digital image of another person, which we do have, or an electronic message of a harassing nature about another person, which we do have, which would be likely to incite or produce that unlawful action, which you can make an argument for is guilty of a misdemeanor, punishable by 1 year, and yada yada. Once again, harassment means that you knew that you knowingly made that action, not that you meant to do whatever came next, but something that would have caused something. And once again, of harassing nature is of a reasonable person. If we read this, you intended to give this. You well knew. He knew that it had a person's full name in which he shared. He knew it had a person's general location in which he shared. There is no good faith argument that you could say that there was no intention to cause fear. If I gave somebody's IP address, that would be a shock. But I could say, well, it was online. It is so hard to give you anything when you willingly did that and did not even crop the screenshot, which is very easy to do.
You'll notice California law also states intent. On this law firm's website, they clarify that doxing, according to Penal Code 653.2, must be an act with intent of subjecting someone to harassment. So, according to this information, I have factually not doxed anyone because I mistakenly...
No, you didn't, because for you to do that, you would need to be brought up to court. No, because for you to do that, you would need to be brought up to court, not just say, oh, well, I didn't intend to. That's not how things work. For you to determine intent, it would have to be argued in a trial. How do I know this? Because I was brought to trial based off of a theft statute with the word intent. And even when I signed a civil thing of, oh, I didn't mean to, I was still brought up to a criminal trial in which then we were able to factually prove it in there. But you saying, well, I didn't mean to or I didn't intend to is not enough, especially with how you acted online where anybody calling you out, you just basically blocked them.
Shared an image of a person who I thought was Yellow Flash, a public figure. I did not intend for anyone to harass the gentleman in the photograph, and it's impossible for anyone to have done so for the next reason this claim is ridiculous.
Him being a public figure doesn't mean that you get to share whatever you want from somebody. That's not how that works.
No personal information has been shared. I spoke earlier about the name in the screenshot, and that name in the screenshot is Kevin. Kevin.
Let's just cut it out because I'm really getting tired of the bullshit. No, he shared the full name of a person and the also general location in which you could easily search up that person. That is what private information is. So yes, private information was shared. Don't try to believe his lies. There's a reason why he doesn't show the whole thing. It's because it does actually have the private information of a person where you would be able to search for that person and find him. If there was no such thing of, oh, well, there was private information, there would be no reason to blur it. And for some reason, he keeps on going with this whole thing of like, oh, I didn't do it. It's like, no, that's not how that works.
As you can see, the claim that I doxed someone is unequivocally false. In order to dox someone, you have to have intent. That intent has to be malicious, and you have to post identifying information about that person. None of that happened.
Yes, intent. Intent as in doing the action. Not as the intent itself has to be malicious. But let's say he's right. Once again, you prove that you're not going to get charged with a misdemeanor. Doesn't mean that we still can't go and call it colloquial doxing. Because there's many states that don't have any statutes of that. So saying like, oh yeah, I'm right in this specific location. Okay. Across the United States, no. And the rest, I'll let, just your nightmare actually deal with. But this is a terrible, terrible, terrible way to defend it, saying, well, at least on the legal side, I'm not there. And it's like, yeah, many states, even many places don't have doxing laws. So what's your point? That you're right in one specific location? Okay. You also brought up a definition that literally proves you wrong and then decided not to read the first half and only look at the word intent. Okay, you just proved that you can't read. You're not that smart. It's incredibly poor taste to say, yeah, I can basically do this because it was online. Or I was trying to go after a public person, but I missed my target. Okay, that still doesn't make it great. You just admitted that you did this purposely, which would mean that you did this with malice. So I don't know why you're trying to argue that. It's just very sloppy, and he's just trying to cover his tracks of that he did dox somebody, whether or not he wants to admit it. The legal side you could argue, but that would have to be deemed in court, so he can't argue that by himself. But in just a base standard normal thing, yes, you did dox somebody. Just accept it and move on. Or are you afraid that you might have a slight against you because you have been wrong multiple times before, people call that out, and then you just crash out?